Thanks for coming on the Construction Royalty Podcast.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, for sure. So let's get started. Um, Grizzly Iron, that's a family business. What's like your current title? What is it that you do right now in the day-to-day stuff?
So officially, I'm vice president of the company,
Okay.
but I mainly work with the front end of the company, and we're working with clients, doing some design, estimating, and yeah, like I said, customer service kind of thing on the front end.
Mhm.
I actually, I used to do a lot more of the actual design. Now we're just more managing that. I've got, teams that we're managing to work on the design and things like that. Once in a while, I'll still get in and draw up something in CAD.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the estimating and sometimes the measuring, I'll handle that.
So I'm guessing you're kind of like me, where you like grew up in that business.
Yeah, definitely. It's a family-owned business. So my dad started the company, I think 34 years ago, roughly. And I came in a little over 15 years ago, full time. I was working in the company from in through grade school, learning how to weld and kind of sweeping the floor, doing all kinds of things. And then, so when I came in full time, I ended up uh, kind of stepping into the role of dealing with, working with the clients more so. And then at the time, we weren't doing much for, like we weren't doing using AutoCAD or things for our designs and drawings. So I took an interest in that and picked that up and started incorporating that to get us better details and working with better communication with the clients to just make things a little better. I mean, it improved some things, and brought us to the current century.
Yeah. How old were you whenever you started? Whenever you started there full time?
How old was I?
Yeah.
I was right out of high school, so like 18.
Okay.
So when I decided not to go to college. I did take a couple classes community college. In fact, one of them, or I took a couple classes on AutoCAD in community college. Um, but I decided not to go to college because I figured I saw an opportunity to go into the business full time, and my thought was just to be an entrepreneur or something in general. Um, so I saw it as an opportunity. At the very worst case, is that I'd have experience for 2 or 4 years running a business hands on, um, rather than studying in a book and from a professor. Not that that's not valuable, but I felt like it was more valuable, and I didn't go into debt doing it.
Oh yeah, dude. It's always on hand, like hands-on experience, right? Like actually like running a business, or
Oh
being
yeah,
in there. Like it's the way better experience than college for sure.
for sure.
Yeah. So I'm guessing like the first couple of months or years, like you spend your time like actually welding and doing like hands-on stuff.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, it's uh definitely. I mean, when I came in, we had 4 or 5, 6 employees. I mean, actually, in the first year, I think we went up to about a 10 or 12, um, and kind of fluctuated since then. I mean, but even up until about 6 years ago, at one point, about 6 years ago, um, it was myself, my dad, and one other employee. I mean, we had ups and downs and fluctuations and all kinds of things. So there's definitely been different times of where how much I've been hands on and not. So I've definitely done a majority of the positions in our company. Um, I do feel like I could still step in and keep up with them. Um, but I also sometimes have to remind myself, like I have to, I need where I need to focus my time, and it's a I definitely feel it's more of an emotional thing of like personally, like I feel like I mean I should be out there helping them sometimes. Like I'll admit there's times I'm like I'm glad I'm not the one always doing it because it's hard work.
Oh yeah.
We're in Arizona, it's hot, and so um, but my that time that I could be spending doing that, I've got a backlog of work, on the, dealing with our clients. So I need to be helping them too. So
Yeah, yeah, dude. So like the way whenever I started with my dad, right, in his like electrical company that he still runs in another part of Texas, he well like I whenever I came in, like I came in just doing hands-on stuff, right?
mhm.
That's where I learned how to like work with my hands,
Yeah,
especially because I mean, the school doesn't teach you, even trade schools, they don't teach you how to do hands-on stuff.
yeah,
That's where I learned my hands-on experience, and then later on, like whenever I was in high school, I just like studied the code book on my own, right? Um, and then once I came to like do my own business, like I had I had to run a business without like knowing how to run a business. Because
yeah,
my dad did to teach me was just like the hands-on part. But it's good that you got like a little bit of like everything, right? Because like now you look back, you're like, damn, like I'm glad I had like all I had to wear like all the different hats, right? Because like you're saying, like you had to go back and step into the field or do whatever, then you can do it.
yeah. There's definitely, I think there's pluses and minuses to both. Like, cause us, we're being so custom, it helps to have all those experience of doing things. And like, cause especially like when I'm working with a client to discuss options on how something's going to be installed or how it's going to be designed, like I have the experience to know the right mounting and the right, like, what designs work and what designs are tricky, what designs, where it can increase labor costs and things like that. So for, it helps with the pricing and all kinds of things like that. um I do feel like it's also, it's a for a lot of business owners, and it's something I still fight today. I mean, it's because when you are buried in the business and like you're stuck in it, now you're struggling to replace yourself and to like, and it's like a constant like chase of how to get out of it, to work on the business and to hire people that can replace you. Whereas if you kind of start, if you're able to, and it's most people can't, I don't think, but unless you have like some funds and things, behind you or something, but to build it to where you're able to not be in the business where you're working and or like in there and other people are doing the roles. Like it's something you can kind of build to scale, I think, quicker if you can build it that way. I just think most trades have a hard time doing it. I mean, I think almost all the trades end up starting out working, doing it themselves, and they figure, oh well, like if I can do it here, I can just go over here and do a side job, and then it ends up turning into full-time work and then into a business. So
Yeah.
but then that makes it, just like I said, it's a challenge to replace yourself at that point, because you're trying to do the work to pay the bills, but so
Yeah, it's tough, man. How did you guys like go through that? How did you like transition
uh,
after you like started stepping out of the field? Because like you're saying, like most of the trades, um, they just they stay small because they figure that they can just do everything, and it's hard.
it it's finding the right people is a huge thing. And like, and I mean, like I said, we like, being that we've had fluctuations so much of like of that, like even at the times when we had very few people, I was still trying to spend, I almost like, I almost trying to remember, like I would try to segment my day into focusing on spending, like doing administrative work and doing the actual work. um Sometimes if when we do with some installation, some of those days get long and you don't end up getting any office work done. You're just done. But it was always constantly trying to hire the right people that can do the work, and that was just it. I mean, just trying to just, and I felt like actually for me, hiring for the people that are actually building and in the field is a little bit easier than the admin part. At least on our side, being how custom we are, because we do, custom architectural ironwork, and it's a huge range of items, and having the knowledge base on how to quote and things like that is tricky. Um, so um, so replacing myself currently is very is a little more difficult. And and I've slowly, I've been able to hire someone and actually bring up people that were working in the shop to doing the CAD work. You know, and then we've also hired like a VA who helps us with our design work, and doing more rendering, and that like I'm able to actually offload a little bit of the creative design to him. So that kind of thing helps with just offloading what I'm actually doing. You know, like I mean, as it seems like as we grow, I'm like the what used to be like a, I don't know, I kind of think of like like a pie, and the different things that like you know, like my estimating slice of the pie that it used to be small now has just gotten a lot bigger. And like so even as I've offloaded stuff, what I still have to focus on has just gotten more. So
Your slice of the pie has just got bigger.
yeah.
The pie got bigger too.
Yeah, and that's really it. I mean, and so but basically it's just and kind of, and as we go I'm figuring out like what I can still, what need to divide up and like the tasks I do, because I mean as a business owner you wear so many hats.
Yeah.
And just from other mentors and everything, I mean most people can really only handle up to maybe 3 roles in a company, truly. So like you really can't expect people to handle more than 3 main items that they do. So it's so like especially like as a, like if you're a solo entrepreneur, especially in the trades, that like you know you have sales, estimating, and design, or and then actually doing the work and invoicing and you know accounting, you know, all that. So like you can't expect one person to replace you. You have to be able to grow to hire multiple people in those roles and segment it out. So, and like even like at the point we're at is I'm seeing that I still have multiple things I'm doing that we kind of have to scale so that I can kind of afford to have one person take on certain each aspect of, and break it down still, because again, like I said, it's very custom, and so it's to try to have someone do all, you know, replace me right now would still be very difficult. So
Yeah. I mean, even in like trades, it's because like even in the trades, like just any work that's custom is like, way more harder, right? Than
yeah.
just like regular, like, when you build houses, it's like, residential, like cookie cutter houses is just kind of simple,
Mm-hmm.
hard, right? But it's like simple. And then
Yeah.
custom homes is like fucking another level. So like I get, especially like with you, like just custom ironworks is like, I imagine like having so many hats to wear is just fucking frustrating.
It gets a little frustrating. I mean, it definitely does. And as we grow, it's, you know, it's just that many more little, and it's all these little things that just bubble up, and that, you know, you're just kind of like, man, like I just like I got a moth hanging around. I got a moth flying around my office. It's unusual. Sorry.
Must be part of the show.
Yeah, I guessed. So
Do you guys do like mainly residential or commercial or little bit of both?
it's almost all residential. There's a small amount of commercial that we do. But I would say it's almost all we focused into residential. Um, and we've just grown really by, you know, word of mouth, just organic. And yeah, just trying to just do quality work and not try to cut corners. So
I've seen some of the designs you guys make, man. It's pretty interesting how you guys
thanks.
go through.
Yeah, it's when people ask what we do, I mean, like, you know, we do, you know, gates, railings, but you know we'll do staircases, and we do all kinds of like miscellaneous little structural supports for other trades and things like that, that sometimes you never even know are really there. And you know, yeah, it's like I said, it's a wide range. And so like we work with a lot with like custom home builders. Um, and so when they're looking for, when it comes to metalwork, I mean they kind of want to work with one company to do a majority of that work. So so that's why it could be like those custom brackets for shelves, or like stone benches and a shower, and then up to where we're doing the panels. It's like we're doing gates and fencing and um, all kinds of custom things. We've done TV enclosures for outside on patios that are mechanized and motorized for. So yeah,
Um,
and then we get into now where we've been focusing also on adding a structural line for like actually doing structural steel for houses, and that's almost all residential as well. So um, there's a lot of steel in some of the houses that we build to make the designs work.
so like if you're building something like a gate or a staircase, like what like by the time like the client comes up to you and say like, hey, I want this. So like from start to from the very beginning to by the time that you guys like actually like finalize that design and like, okay, this is it. Like what's the process, like time process of that?
um about the time frame,
Yeah.
or like the, so I mean it could be about a couple months to, I mean we have some projects that are going on about a year or so, like they kind of seem, um but usually they come to us, I'll say a lot of cases that people will come to us with a design in mind. They'll either have a picture, or if they're an architect, or a designer might already have a sketch or like a pretty good idea of what they want. Um, Once in a while they come to us with nothing, like kind of like looking, okay, what, like, you know looking for suggestions on things. And so then usually I'll try to look at what the style of the architecture is, and this is where just like having some creative, I feel like design, I do feel like my experience is like I'm like halfway like an interior designer some days, because like they're asking me for feedback, and I'm like, okay, well, like, is it, like there's a lot of transitional homes at the moment, like going from the contemporary to transit, to traditional, and that's how it seems to be really popular. But like they and so I'll be looking at like different styles, what the style of the house is, and I'll give them some suggestions on here, like here's what, what you can do, or different ideas, and try to figure out a budget too. um Usually at the beginning, if especially if they don't have a design, I'm trying to like pick their brain of like, okay, like kind of feel them out, like if they're looking at a $5,000 gate or they're looking at a $30,000 gate, like because there's a whole range of options on what they're looking for. So um but yeah, once we can kind of get an idea, and I can usually get a budget and maybe a rough idea down on what we're going to build, then we'll go into, once we get like a contract, then we can actually do a shop drawings, design, and finalizing things, and then we'll build it. So, and then sometimes the building process is actually like one of the smallest processes by the time we get, I mean,
Yeah.
as much, sometimes it's big, but like it might be the shortest time frame, but it's just getting it into the schedule with the other 100 jobs that are also
Going on.
in line.
Yeah. Is everything you guys make like uniquely made, or do you guys have like some, I don't know, template or something like that where you like show them if they don't have like a design?
So I mean, for the most part, yeah, everything is unique, and we more or less try to keep it kind of original. I mean, there's some things that we do that are going to be similar, um, that uh, we've done certain fence styles, several times over, things like that. That like we found that this is a really nice look, and that hey, look, this is something that gives you something, and not everybody has, so we um so it's still very custom, and it's still, there's still something to still design and usually tweak about it by the time it gets to them. um there's certain things like I said, like shelving brackets and things like that, that we have a way we build it, so that when it comes up, we you know okay, we just need to fit these dimensions, and now we pretty much already know how we're going to do it. But again, it has to be custom sizes, so nothing's off the shelf in that aspect. So
What's the biggest project you guys have done?
um it varies, because like I mean we've got a pretty large structural project that we're almost finishing up, which is like 70,000 pounds of steel or something like that, like uh,
That's
um but actually that was just in beams. That didn't include the columns. So that was just so it was probably almost, over 100,000 pounds in steel on that
Yes.
one project. So that's probably one of the bigger projects. Um, we've built some, I would say we had a trellis previous to that we built was like 60 some feet long. I thought that was pretty big until I guess now we're building these like homes. um, but we've done
What about the smallest?
we'll do things for $20 if someone comes in and gives us a little, we'll do a little weld job once in a while. So sometimes some of our, usually it's like a client that comes in and, oh, I need this little thing welded up, or sometimes we'll just weld it and send them out the door. But
So no project too big, no project too small.
yeah, yeah, we did some ramadas. They were called ramadas for a school. So it was actually a commercial project, but that we did all these forged branches. It was on a reservation for the Indian community, and they had these they wanted this like cultural ramada and had all these forged branches out of pipe and things like that. That was a pretty good sized project. Because it was all this pipe was forged and then assembled on site. And so I'd say that was a good size one. I mean, again, it depends on you know yeah, we've got all kinds. I mean, it's hard to say, because I mean we've got projects where we'll have 20 gates on one property. We've got one right now that I think they have almost that many gates on one house that we're going to be building. It's 3 sets of driveway gates, and the rest are all pedestrian man gates. So
So yeah, dude, it's kind of interesting, like the business that you guys do, because it's like everybody, I feel like everybody in like whatever, I guess, department you're working in, like in you guys' business, like you have to be creative,
mhm.
right? Because it's like just all custom work. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's, I mean, I can't think of any other like really trade that you would have to be like creative, like start to finish, like everybody in, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's some I would say like there's some carpenters that we work with that do some like doors and things like that do like almost like hand carved doors. There's definitely some creative, like similar trades in a different way. I mean, yeah, like I mean it's not as much of like we're not doing drywall, and it's
Yeah,
like
the same
it's
shit.
just put it up, and I mean you have the same process. It's just doing, whether you're doing a 2,000 square foot house or a 20,000 square foot house.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of just doing, putting it up, and you have the steps to do it. So yeah, that's, like I said, that's one of the challenges of replacing in, myself in this business, of being able to have like a kind of the sales or consultant role, is having that creative mind who also understands the technical aspects. And then plus on top of it, we also have a lot of code issues that we have to meet, depending on stair and handrail codes, pool codes, and then also all the different city limitations on, building requirements that like,
Yeah.
um, you know,
It can be a
so
pain.
like, yeah, so there's all these little different things that you kind of have to wrap into one. And
Yeah.
so
So I know, like, obviously you love what you do now, but starting out, did you always like it, or were you like, oh man, fuck this shit?
it goes in waves. Some days I like it, uh some days it's definitely a challenge, and
But
um
like, but in the beginning, like when you graduated high school and you got in, like, were you excited to go into the business? Because I really wasn't. Like whenever I was working for my dad, like I really wasn't like too excited to be there. I didn't know if electrical was, the thing that I was going to do growing up. I kind of tried, doing different things. Like I worked with a mechanic friend of his, and I just tried to do like some other shit whenever I left to college. And then after college, I came back home and I went back to work with him, with my dad,
yeah.
and then I moved to Houston, and I was like, well, fuck it, like, it's what I know how to do. I'm gonna make a little bit of money. So it just started kind of like as a side thing, and then it just turned into a career eventually. And now I love it.
Yeah, I think I think I might have been a little bit more excited at the time. I think, I mean, for different reasons, and like um I mean, when you're actually working on projects and you get to build things, it's pretty cool to be able to like build something from start to finish and like see a finished product. I mean, there's a sense of accomplishment and like pride that you just really can't get when you're that you can only get by working with your hands, I think. And especially doing something kind of creative and like um so there's definitely that. And um yeah, now it's a different aspect because it's building, we're it's like, because I don't, some of it's doing the solving the issue, solving the problems is like of what our clients are looking to get, like that, or like the solving our clients problems, like, so because we're, coming up with a solution for whatever, whatever it is. Whether it is just doing a new stair railing in their house that so it's more open and they want something kind of decorative, or sometimes we're solving another problem in metal that can't be solved another way. So that's a lot of what I think, where I see like what makes me enjoy it at this point. Plus it's also because it's building the overall company. And it's like, seeing the progress and the growth of our employees, and seeing, kind of looking at what the future is and how to grow the company. That's where I see more of the drive at this point, rather than sometimes the actual items individually. So I think, before it was looking at like kind of the micro scale. Now it's looking at just more the overall, or I guess macro and overall. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, back then you were like just focused on like doing like whatever it is that you're doing,
Yeah,
building, and now it's like, yeah, I get you. Like now it's like you're building the whole company as a whole.
yeah,
This is just like one piece.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I would say now, like where it's kind of changed, and where you're usually trying to think about that overall, like, now it's also because it's, we're managing 20 some employees at this point, so it's like thinking weeks ahead, like trying to manage, like, okay, like, do we have the cash coming in that's going to help us in, next month, so because I mean that payroll's different on 20 employees or 20 24 or 20, whatever employees it is, versus when you only have 3 or 4. So
Yeah, yeah, a lot of people depend on you.
yeah, exactly.
So like, so if somebody that doesn't like know shit about wooding, but wants to, try the industry out, or is interested in getting into, what you guys do is like custom pieces. What's the best way for them to, go on?
So with metalwork, it all depends on the avenue they want to go. If they want to do like welding and fabrication, things like that, I mean, a lot of times, I think most people end up kind of picking it up from a friend, somehow, and if you can find someone else who's already kind of doing it, or as a hobby or something like that, and get, work with them, because sometimes they're already working on a project, help them out, help them on a side project or something. I mean, you can go to a trade school and you can take welding classes, and there's a lot of trade schools that are great. I will say in most cases, the welding classes are going to be very technical. So they're looking at just the technical aspect of welding, and a lot of trade schools, unfortunately, I feel like they're missing it, where they're not teaching the next step of like how to build something. It's so, in our industry, it is really lacking of that. Like they you can learn how to weld and be a great welder, but that only gets you so far into, like, you almost have to either go hands-on on a job, like, and that's another aspect. If you're just jump right in and work your way up in a shop, and And so we definitely, there's a lot of our guys that work for us that um or especially over the years that have started with almost no knowledge, and we start them, cutting and cleaning material, sweeping the floor to, and then, then we'll sometimes even teach them how to weld, and or they'll stay late with another guy and learn how to weld, and before you know it, they're full on welding, and they're welding on, you know, on a bunch of things, and so in most cases we don't have to be like certified for what we do. So like where the structural steel, sometimes you where that's where the certifications come in, but the ornamental stuff we can see visually it's a good or a bad weld. We don't like bad welds go, but we don't need someone who's certified like a pipe welder would be, because and like I said, metal industry, there's so many avenues. So it could be like you could go into if you go to weld, you get your welding certification, you can go and do pipe fitting and welding, and there's a huge opportunity there, and work on the gas lines, and all kinds of things. Um, but the other thing is we actually do teach some classes at our shop. That's a whole nother, you probably, yeah, you're fishing for that, huh?
Yeah, yeah, that was gonna be my next question because I know you said that like, some of the trade schools are like missing. You know, they don't teach like everything.
Yeah.
That was gonna be my next question. Is like, do you see yourself like building an in-house school?
So somewhat actually, that's been one of our thoughts for a long time, is because we do teach classes. Our most of our classes are around blacksmithing and knife making. That's very popular, and that's a slightly easier thing to pick up as a hobby for people, because they can get a little forge or heat up steel with a torch, or just grind a knife, things like that. Um, so like but we teach that, and but we also do teach some welding classes. A couple of our employees that work for us will actually teach those classes. We'll teach, and usually in those classes we don't just teach welding. We'll go over the basics. And I mean, and a lot of people were for, I would say, like, if you're going to use the MIG, like a wire feed welder, some people, it takes them 10 minutes to pick it up and learn how to do it. Some people it can take several hours or several days, but I mean, there's a lot of people can pick it up in a half hour, an hour, and they can be off in welding. And so that's where we teach a welding class, but we'll build a project and we'll teach them how to do certain things, and make little parts, maybe make a sculpture, or make a little frame. So we have some classes where we've done table bases and shelves and things like that. Um, but yeah, and like our thought process has been like, it'd be amazing to be able to have a facility where we could actually teach the whole, like, truly a fabrication course on the ornamental side. There is a couple schools that teach fabrication, but it's on like uh the off-road and motorsports and all the roll cages and things. Um which is another avenue of metalworking and welding that you can go down. So
There's an opportunity right there.
yeah. So, but like I said, I don't know of any true school that's teaching ornamental fabrication, or at least offering more than maybe a weekend course, or no curriculum for it. So
So what's next for you guys? I mean, you guys have a lot of plans, a lot of projects going on. I mean, what are you guys working on right now?
um
Okay.
really, I mean, the like I mentioned, our structural side of our company is growing, which is something that we've looked at for years, and we have some good like opportunities in that, I think, and especially in the residential space with structural here. So that seems to be growing, and honestly, with that, it's higher dollar amounts. I mean, obviously, there's some different stresses and things, but it's there's because they're just larger projects, though. And But that also helps to kind of build the whole business in general, to be able to scale a little bit more, with even the ornamental side being able to help it scale. And honestly, like, yeah, we're looking, that like we're running out of space where we're at now currently, and so there may be a need to expand, and maybe we can, where, ideally if we could find a place where we can build a school at the same time, that would be cool. But
Yeah.
we're just growing a little, bit. And like I said, we have a huge opportunity right now with the structural that's kind of in front of us in the next year. So I think that's gonna just be that much bigger in scaling it. The Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anybody that you need, like, specific, or maybe more welders, or somebody for estimating, like maybe that person is listening to this podcast, and you might use a hand.
Um, project manager is one that we've been looking at, and help that, that just to be able to help us manage, and honestly it's in our ornamental side, is managing the project, the projects that are going, and workflow and things like that. So that's what our current need is. I mean, like, with I am looking at eventually needing an estimator and things like that, but it's, like I said, it's kind of it's always a challenge of scaling and how much we can scale versus, we bring in an extra employee, we have to be able to afford that employee. But we also, like, if that employee generate, like an estimator could generate more work that we actually can't handle. So so it's like just a balancing act. But
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's always a tough one, right? With like hiring people, it's like, can you afford it? Can you not? Like, what?
yeah.
Like, is he bringing in more
Yeah.
money? Will he bring in more money, or is it, just like a, cleanup guy or something like that?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like, I mean, I mean, like another welder or fabricators, a couple of those, like, I mean, we would love to be able to hire them. It's just at this point, like, I mean, we have the workload for it. It's just the space and the capacity to be able to work, is getting constrained, without starting to work night shifts and things like that, which I don't know that we ever want to get into that. It's a whole new challenge with that.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, dude. So, if that person listens to this podcast, how can they get a hold of you, and maybe they want to take some classes, or just check what you guys out. Check you guys out.
Yeah. So we're on Facebook. I mean, kind of all over as a Grizzly Iron. It's pretty easy to find on Facebook. We also have a Facebook group, just for our classes and workshops. So I think it's like it's actually called open, like Grizzly Iron Open Forge and Workshops, I think is what it's called. But because the Open Forge is actually a time where we have allow people to come in and use the facility that are, more hobbyists. They use some equipment to work on their own projects. We do that some certain weeknights in the fall and spring, when it's a little bit cooler. And then but yeah, I mean, I'm on Instagram just as Jason LaBrash. So I'm usually really easy to message there. And I mean, our business page is also on Instagram, although we haven't posted much on Instagram lately. We're probably selling ourselves short there. We need to be back
Yeah.
on that one.
But the fact is that, like, you guys are growing so fast that, just word of mouth. Like, imagine if you guys are doing ads too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing, is like, it's yeah, we, like I said, we have more than enough work to handle, as by word of mouth, that, like, if we did really push and market it, and we do actually consistently post to Facebook on our business page. And there's some pretty cool stuff that we've been posting. We post a lot of things from over the years. So and but yeah, if we had more coming in from all that, which every once in a while people do pick it up and find it from, there's a couple other websites that that people find us on. Actually, I'll mention this because it's because of other people in the trades. Is a website called Houzz.com. Well, I discovered it really early on, and I remember finding it, and it's like the Pinterest of just home decorating interiors and things like that. It's similar to Pinterest, but very just down to the home stuff, and it's all home things. But you can post your own projects that, like, you think work that you've done. I mean, they want professional photos and stuff, but they, I would say we've gotten more work and calls off of that website than any like, anything else. And again, like I said, I found it pretty early on, and when I found it initially, I was like, there's no way this is free. Like, it didn't make sense. Like, and they do have some, they things they try to sell you on, but it's a pretty powerful site if you use it right. So
Yeah, dude.
if you have a portfolio of work that you can put on for your residential work, it's definitely a great way to find work. So, or at least it's not an overnight process. I would say it's a very slow, again, kind of organic, treated organically. And I think you can market with it, but it's it definitely gets your name out there and branded. So
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna need that the link for your Facebook group. So I can post it on the show notes.
sure,
Yeah.
for
And
sure, definitely.
I'll just find your website and stuff, and I'll just link it all. But yeah, yeah, Jason, thanks for coming on the podcast, man. I appreciate you for dropping all the knowledge.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, for sure.